in addition to running the outfitter, I've been involved in public life my whole life. My parents, Frank and Mary Alice Hansen, were both very active in public life and encouraged all of us kids to do that, and I did it with a vengeance. I've been on so many boards, I'm not going to give you the list because it would bore you to tears, but the things that are probably the most applicable to being the representative for 3A is I served for 9 years on the Northland Foundation board, which is one of the McKnight Initiative funds. It's an independent fund that was spun off from the McKnight Foundation 23 years ago now, I think, to do philanthropic giving and economic development, in this case in 7 counties in northeastern Minnesota. And I loved my time on that board. Very, very significant. Did a lot of projects here and in Ely and in International Falls and Cook County, Lake County, both philanthropic giving to, sheltered for battered women, Lighthouse for the Blind, on and on and on, philanthropic giving, and then many, many business deals where the Northland Foundation is the catalyst that makes it happen for a business that can't do it just through bank financing. The story I have there is my very first Northland Foundation meeting. I got there and the loan officer, John Eldon, just retired, wonderful man, gave a presentation recommending that we give a $100,000 loan to a company called Cirrus Designs, which I had sort of seen in the paper. I knew a little bit about it, but of course I hadn't had being my first meeting, I didn't really know what was going on. But John gave as he always did, gave a very cogent and detailed explanation of why he recommended the loan, and it made sense to me. And the vote came, and I voted aye along with everybody else. It was unanimous, and we granted him that loan. And a couple days later, I was walking down the street in Duluth and ran into my banker. At that time, what became U.S. Bank, and he stopped me on the sidewalk. Hey, how are you doing? How's business? The usual. And then he said, "Oh, I see you're on the Northland Foundation board now." And I said, "Yeah, it really seems really interesting, a really interesting organization." He said, "Well, I'm glad you've got $100,000 you want to throw away on that stupid airplane company." And I said, I was shocked. I was like, "Oh my gosh, isn't it a good deal?" It really sounded like a good deal. And he said, "Those two guys, those brothers, are hobbyists. They're hobbyists. This is going nowhere." And I was kind of like, I kind of said to him, "Well, it was my first meeting. I didn't know." But everybody else seemed for it. Well, we all know what happened there. So that's just an example of the effectiveness of the Northland Foundation. And Bill King, the vice president of Cirrus, is a regular customer of mine. And every time he comes over and shakes my hand and says, "But for that $100,000 loan, Cirrus would not have survived. That was a key loan at a key time. We would have shut down, and we wouldn't have those thousands of jobs today." So that just shows you what can be done in economic development with the right thing at the right time in the right place, and that really inspired me. I eventually became chair of the Northland Foundation, which I enjoyed very much. And then when I got off that board after 9 years, my wife went on the board. She likes to point out that she served for 10 years. They changed the rules while she was on, and she was also the chair, and she enjoyed it very much. I transitioned straight from the Northland Foundation board to the Entrepreneur Fund board, which at that time was called the Northeast Entrepreneur Fund. And that's an organization, a nonprofit that does very similar work to the Northland Foundation, but they focus purely on economic development. So they support entrepreneurs in creating jobs. That's what the whole purpose of the organization. And it grew a lot while I was on the board. I was on that board for 10 years and also served as the chair. Mary Matthews, the very excellent executive director who's now retired, just did a wonderful job of growing that organization, had huge impact, at least half a dozen projects here in Ely, projects in International Falls, Cook County, all over there. That served 5 Minnesota counties and 1 county in northwestern Wisconsin, Douglas County. So that was a great experience. So really the bulk of my public experience over the last 20 years has been more in economic development and philanthropy than anything else.